Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome into the webinar for today. We are going to just wait 1 minute while we wait for everyone to populate into the room. So hang on tight. We'll be back in just a minute. For those of you joining into the room here, welcome. We are just waiting 1 minute while we give everyone a chance to filter in. We will get started shortly. And again, for those of you joining, thanks very much. Good to see the room filling up. Always nice to see all of your smiling faces here today. All right, looks like we've got a pretty good sized group of people, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to be talking about Nautobot Cloud, your gateway to network automation, enabling NetDevOps and data-driven network automation for everyone. Just some quick introductions. We have Taylor Dawson, Senior Sales Engineer here at Never to Code. He'll be joining us doing demonstration as well as some other topics throughout the webinar today. And of course, myself, Tim Shryak, Director of Sales Engineering here at Network to Code. Starting off, let's just take a quick overview of Nautobot and consider Nautobot and its two major use cases as it exists today. First, network source of truth. It gives us the ability to ensure the intended state of the network is documented and understood, so we can then therefore drive automation with confidence. We can do things like have our inventory management, devices, locations, all of the things that we might have in our environment, IPAM, DSIM, networks. So, all of the things that we use to operate the network, whether those are VLANs or ASNs, VRFs, you name it, and even custom things, right? Like we can create any number of custom fields, custom defined relationships in the database. And that is Nautobot's core functionality, is that source of truth. And this is maybe similar to other tools or products that you may use that cover similar topics, CMDB, IPAM, and DSIM functionalities. What makes Nautobot different, though, is this second use case that we're thinking about here as well, which is the network automation platform. That is, how do we take that data that we have in the core of Nautobot in the database and start to use it in the real world? That is, to drive automation. How do we take advantage of existing applications that exist and then help us solve common use cases? Or maybe even you want to go create your own application on top of that platform. And this is really a key fundamental difference about Nautobot in general, and really what differentiates it in the market from every other source of truth that we might have. That is this ability to take the data and make use of it in the real world. So as we think about the core functionality of the Nautobot platform, it is extremely open and extensible source of truth platform. So as we mentioned earlier, you can model your entire network. You can model any kind of equipment that you have. And that can be network equipment. It could be storage equipment. It could be compute and servers, racks, you name it. So there's really no limit to the capability that you can take advantage of the flexibility that we have both in the data model that exists in the database, as well as in the application and its intention as a framework to be flexible and adaptable. Now you can see some examples of integrations that you might want to integrate with, whether they're vendors like Arista, Cisco, or Juniper, or other tools, things like Infoblox or Device42. Really commonly into ServiceNow, for example. We see a lot of our clients and potential clients using ServiceNow, including the ServiceNow CMDB. And it's extremely common integration to integrate that with Nautobot so that we can take advantage of the data that already exists in the ServiceNow CMDB, but we can enrich it with the Nautobot side of the world. Integrations into things like the cloud networks or SDN, also possible. Basically, any other tool, so long as it has some form of API, we can integrate with and interact with from the Nautobot perspective. So it gives us you'd have the advantage of starting from some opinionated data models. That is, we took an opinion of how you should model your environment, but the ability to then adapt that to your specific requirements. And of course, the data that is down in the database, we expose it in any number of ways into your environment. So whether that's just through your traditional REST API, or maybe you want to hit the more advanced GraphQL endpoint, giving you a lot of flexibility in the way you access data in the database. But then, of course, other things like webhooks, job hooks, and Git integrations available to you as well. So this full framework that we can use to aggregate and integrate data. And then the network automation platform side, we're able to drive automation directly from Nautobot if desired, or we could integrate with other tools. Perhaps you want to instantiate a change or some automation from Nautobot, but then maybe you want to trigger an Ansible workflow, for example, is absolutely possible. Or maybe you want to integrate out directly to a vendor's equipment, whether it's Cisco or Juniper, maybe something like Cisco ACI, or perhaps DNAC are examples of ways that you might begin a change in Nautobot and then pass that change on to some other tool to continue driving that environment. We can also take advantage of the application ecosystem. So there are many apps that have already been built as part of the Nautobot ecosystem that are available to you to install, download, and use in your Nautobot instance. And you can, of course, also build your own. So you can have custom ones that can be developed specific to your business process, allowing you to have the advantage of kind of these off-the-shelf applications versus something you might want to build in-house. The key thing, though, to think about is development on the Nautobot platform saves up to 70% of your time because of those non-functional requirements. Things like, if I'm going to deploy an application in an enterprise, I have to do things like have logging. I need to have tie-ins to my SSO. I need to have RBAC controls. I need to make sure that it's run it in a safe, compliant manner. And all of these things are provided to you by the Nautobot platform. So when I'm writing my code, I don't need to worry about that stuff. I can just take advantage of those functionalities within the platform and worry about the primary directive of my code, which is to drive, some particular network automation flow. So some deployment options for Nautobot. Of course, you have your traditional on-premise or on-prem installation. That is, you spin up Nautobot, whether it's as a VM or as a container running in your environment, your traditional world, where you are responsible for the operation of that platform, as well as the installation and deployment of it. But what we're presenting today and starting to talk about today is Nautobot Cloud. That is a full-service SaaS offering for Nautobot and the network automation ecosystem provided by Network to Code. Briefly here, we're going to take a little deviation from very technical talk about Nautobot, and we're talking about a little sort of adjunct side story here. And Taylor's going to take this one for us.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. And I just wanted to start because when I was thinking about this presentation and this webinar about our SaaS cloud offering, it reminded me of a time when I was pursuing my undergraduate degree, and I had an acquaintance or a friend that I was, studying with in the libraries late at night, all those things for our basic courses. And the gentleman was pursuing a degree in civil engineering. And, at the time I had known civil engineers to be bridge builders, road and infrastructure. And I just didn't understand why he really wanted to be a civil engineer. And so one of those late nights, I go and I just ask him, I'm like, hey, why are you pursuing civil engineering? What's the interest there? And what he came back as an answer to me was something that was astonishing and kind of threw me back a bit, because what he said to me in response was, Taylor, did you know that 15% of our country today is on a well water source, whereas 85% of the country is on a municipal service provided water source? And to me, I was kind of just shocked at that number. It seemed like a very high percentage. And his mission to want to provide water to everybody in the country just was something that resonated in my heart. It seemed like it was a passion. And when we start talking about Nautobot as a SaaS solution, I see a lot of similarities into this story. I'm confident that most of that 15% would convert to this municipal water source if they had the choice. When you think about it, after all, there aren't really many great reasons to manage your own well water. You can see on the diagram on the left, you have a litany of pipes and components and pieces that could be failure modes in your management of this system. The periodic inspections required, the maintenance day in and day out that's required. When alternatively, you could have a team of talented engineers deliver water to you, to your home for, less than a cent a gallon. And that story, that theme, that passion is what I see we are presenting here with our Nautobot Cloud SaaS offering.
Yeah, so as we kind of think about that idea of the municipal water versus the well water, and let's draw the analogy really clearly, right? You think of the Nautobot on-prem solution. That's our well water solution. As the consumer of Nautobot on-prem, you are responsible for all the infrastructure. That's the servers and the storage and the monitoring of that platform. You're required to do all of the maintenance and the upgrades for both Nautobot and the applications that you might have running in that environment. You need to do all the deployment of it, whether that's using Ansible or Terraform or whatever you use in your infrastructure. So there's a lot of overhead that comes with using a platform like Nautobot or any other tool, whether that's ServiceNow, CMDB, or you name it. That comes just by nature of having to run that infrastructure. And what ends up happening is you end up spending a lot of your time doing things that are not related to your core function. If you are on the network team or you're a network engineer, your primary function is to operate the network. So either you're going to have to carve out time from your day or your working hours to take care of those functions, or you're going to have to outsource it to some other group, maybe perhaps within your organization, and ask them to help you run that infrastructure. Versus going to the municipal water model, right? That is Nautobot Cloud. It's a full service SaaS offering. So now we don't have to worry about that infrastructure, right? That's all handled for you by network to code. You don't have to worry about upgrades, for example. Again, very easy one-click deployments of Nautobot upgrades. We have dashboards to better understand the data that's available to us. So there's also value add on top of just the fact that we are dealing with not having to deal with these overhead pieces. And I think this is somewhat akin to the idea of, when you have your own well, not only are you responsible for that infrastructure, which is all of the things we just discussed, but also you're getting the water as it is out of the ground, most likely. If you extend that notion over to the municipal water concept, right, in that case, there's some value add. The city or whoever it is, they're also chlorinating that water. They're making sure it's safe, right? They're giving you some value adds on top of just the basic functionality. And I think it's the same thing as we look at the cloud solution here, where, not only are you getting that infrastructure and all of those things done for you, you're also getting this value add of, hey, I have dashboards available to me. I can get greater insights into how my platform's being used. How is the functionality of that platform existing, right? So all of those things kind of value add on top of just that basic infrastructure. So as we look here at these kind of three major pillars of the cloud, we can see, accelerate delivery of our outcomes. We can onboard quickly. We can deploy Nautobot and its applications in minutes. We can unlock the potential of automation. We have all of the advantage, all of the functionality that we might have in Nautobot in any other way is also available to us, but also bundled with Ansible AWX available to you to take advantage of in the platform. That is, it is tightly integrated into your Nautobot Cloud instance, as well as the application marketplace. So I have that easy one-click deployment of Nautobot apps into my Nautobot instances. And then finally, streamlined deployment and management. All of the infrastructure, of course, managed by network to code, and you have access to both Nautobot experts and Ansible experts. So if you are having questions or need assistance, those are available to you as well through the Nautobot Cloud system. So simplifying the adoption of data-driven network automation. To really hammer this point home, let's take a look at the on-prem solution and the infrastructure required. So as we start to think about what it is that I might need in order to build out a proper automation and source of truth platform, Again, regardless of what the solution is, whether it's Nautobot or otherwise, we're going to be looking at a very simple, similar infrastructure. That is, we are going to have both the front end, so that's all of our GraphQL, REST, and web browser endpoints, in front of some load balancer, right? So there's going to be some load balancer that we need to maintain, as well as monitoring of all of the endpoints, ensuring that they're up and running. We have the backend services running behind that, the web services that are powering all of those endpoints, the various service components that provide those functionalities. Then all of the other fully backend pieces. So the database, the in-memory data store, things like Redis and the cache, and these components that all need to be maintained and monitored. So whether these are deployed as a VM or as a container, we still have the same infrastructure running, maybe just in different deployment methods. But there's a lot to manage and maintain. And if something does go wrong, there's a lot to troubleshoot here. Particularly when this is not part of your normal day-to-day functions, this can be a large challenge to understand, which component needs attention, which component is actually malfunctioning right now, and I should go troubleshoot. Whereas when we go to the cloud solution, of course, it's easy, right? All of that infrastructure, all of those components monitored, managed, and maintained by network to code for you, so you can focus on your core function, which is driving the network, driving change, driving automation into your environment. So how do we accelerate that time to value? If you think of the traditional installation, most likely, almost for sure, network team is going to be involved because, right, this is our primary function here using Nautobot. It is primarily a network team tool, but we're going to have to include folks from the infrastructure team because we need some equipment to run it on. We're probably going to need access to the IT team because we're going to need to tie it into SSO and connect it into all of our RBAC controls. For sure, the security team is going to get involved, and then inevitably the project management will be needed because this is a large project. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time, probably 3 to 6 months, getting the environment spun up, installed, deployed, ensured that it's in compliance by security. And we're going to spend hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours doing this work. Whereas when we go over to the cloud installation side, again, it's a one-click install. We can be up and running in minutes. Labor hours is minimal. We're probably not measuring in hours. We're probably measuring in minutes. So being really able to optimize the team. As we were just alluding to earlier, if we go with all those on-prem teams, there's going to be a lot of people taking time out of their regular day-to-day tasks to focus on this one thing that is, again, not really part of your core function, both as a team and as a business. As a business, you're here to operate whatever it is that drives you forward, not about infrastructure tools. So why worry about that? When you move over to the cloud team, now, for example, those teams can actually focus on their core function. That is, making sure that all of the network devices are in compliance with their expected standards using the Golden Config app, for example. We can make sure that we have data synchronized across our business, that we have all of the databases that we need to populate, whether that's the CMDB or maybe some monitoring tool, all of those things that we normally would be focusing on. Now we can actually spend time on that. Because we can use both the automation platform to help us be more efficient, as well as now we're not worrying about all that underlying infrastructure. We're just letting network code handle that piece. And now finally, just the advantages of a cloud native architecture. Right? When you think, again, back to the on-prem installation, many times when we first start thinking about it, we don't really think about what are we going to do if we need to scale it? What are we going to do about high availability? What about if all of a sudden we have a need to, maybe we need to have separate business units, or there's a reason why we need to segregate some portions of the data from other portions. And all of a sudden that now means we need to go back. Maybe we need to rethink our deployment. Maybe we need to get more hardware or expand our resources available to us. Whereas when we go over to the cloud infrastructure, it's auto scaling. We have all of that capability backed by the cloud that we can just scale up and down as needed. We have dedicated clusters built in already as part of our infrastructure, so we don't have to worry about impact from perhaps a parallel environment that you might have in your traditional on-prem deployment. multi-tenancy baked in right from the start. So if you need to have that idea of, hey, we have separate business units and we want to be able to segregate their data from each other, that's absolutely available to you. And then, of course, high availability. Straight out of the box, we're always building to that high availability model. That is that we can ensure that Nautobot will be up and running for you. So let's take a look now at some of the platform features and basically everything you would expect from a great cloud solution. So here's an example of creating a Nautobot instance in just minutes. So compared to perhaps having to go out to the Nautobot repo, you've got to clone that, you've got to download it, you've got to do invoke build, invoke start, and bring this infrastructure up and running. Here in this case, it's a simple UI-driven click and go. So here you can see we have the ability to say, click on that create button. We're given a nice, easy to consume UI. We can choose the name, set a description, choose the particular image that we want, maybe assign it to a project, decide, hey, should this be for private use only? That is, I have to be on my company network or on my company VPN to access it, or is it available to the internet? Depending on your use case, you may have different scenarios by which you're able to do one or the other. Of course, everything all backed through SSL encryption. So regardless of whether it's private or public, everything is, of course, encrypted as well. The transactions going back and forth between Nautobot and who's ever using the infrastructure. But we have those automated deployments, automated upgrades. So we can deploy quickly in minutes, saving just hundreds of hours on the deployment side. And then the upgrade side, similar concept. Where we're able to spin up upgrade instances, we're able to then migrate our data over to our new instance and then switch to the new upgraded version without having to spend a lot of time on those types of basic infrastructure tasks that otherwise would definitely be very time consuming. Giving us, and again, fully manageable via API as well. So if you do have deployment code that you want to use on your side, whether that's, again, Ansible or Terraform or some other automation, we're able to do that as well. So you have that full flexibility, whether you're using the UI or the API to manage your Nautobot instances in Nautobot Cloud. And using the marketplace, able to really accelerate the deployment of Nautobot applications. Again, key differentiator for the Nautobot ecosystem and one of the main drivers behind why you might be interested in Nautobot is the availability of the Nautobot apps. Things like Golden Config, our firewall models, our device lifecycle management applications. These are all extremely popular apps that provide tremendous value back to not only the network team, but the business in general. And being able to deploy these through simple, easy one-click deployments saves just tremendous amounts of time and effort on your side. So being able to run forward with these, including even custom apps, you can deploy into the infrastructure as well through Nautobot Cloud. Taking a look at some of those dashboards, those value adds, those back to the municipal water idea, right? The chlorination of the water. Here's all the value adds, things that we get on top of the experience in the Nautobot Cloud environment. The dashboards that give us visibility into how things are being used. What do we have generally speaking in our environment? You can see these very nice high-level summary reports that we're getting on, hey, number of devices per region or devices that we have up and running, devices per manufacturer. So lots of great summarization and reporting capability here, even down into things like the compliance component there. So you can see down in the lower right there, taking a look at, hey, where are we compliant across our environment in general? Like, hey, AAA is looking, like it needs some work, for example. We've got a lot of non-compliance in the AAA area. And maybe I should assign someone to go take a look at that and work on that from a management perspective, right? So we have a lot of advantages here when we're using the Nautobot Cloud and these value adds that we get from the dashboard environment. Now, before we carry on, we are going to take a brief pause here and pivot over to the demo instance for 1 minute, because there's a few pieces of this where we just want to get started here so that we can talk about it and show you here in a minute. So I'm going to pass over to Taylor to get the demo going.
Thanks, Tim. And what I'll show here is just a brief example of what Tim was describing with the one-click deployments of resources. So here in my Nautobot Cloud, what we call the console, what I'm going to do is just navigate in my resources to the create button that you had seen in the slideshow earlier. And simply by hitting create, I can choose a resource to create, name this resource, choose the image that I want to run, whether it's the latest, a preferred image, or some other specified image. Like Tim had mentioned, the access, the project it's associated to, and then simply hit create, save my password for later, and then in a few moments, the resource will be spun up for us to enter in and play around in.
All right, thanks, Taylor. We got that started, and now let's carry on here as we go through the rest of the slides. Talking about the service features available in Nautobot Cloud. So first, as we kind of take a look at some of the options available to us in the Cloud console, Nautobot, first and foremost, right? Create, upgrade, manage your Nautobot instances. And notice we're using instances there. That is plural. You can spin up multiple Nautobot instances. Perhaps you want to have something like development, a sandbox, and a production. Or maybe you have business unit A and business unit B as an example. Or even perhaps you have, region of the world A, US versus EMEA, for example. Any number of ways that you might decide that, hey, I would love to have multiple Nautobot instances because I want to segregate my data, for example, perhaps, as potentially different ways in which you might use this functionality available to you. Next down, Ansible AWX. Very similar idea here. That is, you can create and upgrade multiple AWX instances as needed, connecting those as desired into your Nautobot instances. So the ability to say, trigger a workflow from Nautobot and fire it off into an AWX instance to handle the orchestration components. The marketplace, really powerful component here. Again, that easy one-click install of the applications into your Nautobot instances. And this is flexible. If you do have multiple, you can choose how you install those apps into your various different instances. Next down, trends. Those are those dashboards that we were looking at earlier. All of those great summarization reports, as well as detailed reports that we might want to drill down into to be able to see utilization or what have you in our environment. And we will take a look at that further here in a minute as well. Event history. Summarization and visibility into all of our logs. We're able to review that, able to see all of those details. Settings, of course, managing your Nautobot Cloud platform, all of that available here as well in the UI. And then finally, something really interesting, I think, this diagnostics component. It is inevitable that, we will have some issues that we need to address, regardless of how those are caused. And we've taken the time to create a mechanism by which we can easily collect data about the environment to help with troubleshooting. So as we're coming in as network to code, maybe we need to assist you. We're able to see that summarization data there and be able to quickly and easily get down to the root cause of the issue and help you get you back up and running as quickly as possible. And reiterating, the platform is capable of supporting as many Nautobot and AWX instances as you need. So driving complete solutions with Nautobot Cloud, as we look at the full automation ecosystem, let's just go a little further into those two primary concepts, Nautobot and then Ansible AWX. So why might you use both of these components in your solution? Nautobot, of course, our source of truth. That's where we have all of our data. And the network automation platform. That's where we're writing our code. We're taking advantage of perhaps Nautobot applications, code that's already available to us, maybe to provide some functionality or perhaps some custom code that we might have written. And of course, over on the Nautobot side, you can absolutely chain some of those jobs together, perhaps in order to have a multi-flow process. But there are times that perhaps you want the full power of a full-blown orchestration engine, something like Ansible AWX. And now we can start to take advantage of automation playbooks and those components that come as part of the Ansible AWX platform. But one of the great things about incorporating Ansible AWX with Nautobot is if you're familiar with using Ansible or Ansible Automation Platform or Ansible AWX, you know that one of the things you need to do is maintain things like inventory files. You have to define group vars and device vars, and all of this overhead that comes from using a platform like that. By integrating with Nautobot, and particularly by doing it in the Nautobot Cloud instance, that overhead is eliminated for you. You don't have to maintain your Ansible inventory file. You don't need to worry about defining group vars or device vars. All of that is handled for you by the fact that you're connected to a Nautobot instance. So those inventories, they're provided by Nautobot. Those group vars and those device vars, those are simply data points coming out of the Nautobot database. So you're able to really accelerate your development. You don't have to worry about maintaining these separate files that are often very difficult to keep in sync at scale. So as you think about, hey, like I have some data in a CMDB, then I need to get that data out of the CMDB and into an Ansible inventory file. I don't need to do that. Right? Like, Nautobot's going to handle that for me. So a lot of power that's coming here from the combination of these two things together. Now, no, probably many of you are thinking, yeah, but I already have Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform. And it is a great platform, absolutely. But did you know that Ansible AWX is almost the same? So now, of course, there probably be some of you saying, yeah, but it's not quite the same. And you are right. There is some differences between Ansible AWX and the Ansible Automation Platform. And that's where we at Network to Code come in conjunction with Nautobot. By combining Nautobot and Network to Code into your mix with Ansible AWX, we are able to provide you the like-for-like experience as you might have with the full-blown Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform. We're here to provide break-fix support for you. So we have that capability to understand, to troubleshoot, and to help you find issues if there may be in the AWX project. We are able to assist in resolving issues and reporting them back up to the mainstream project, and potentially even submitting code to resolve bugs as needed. We also run the various releases of Ansible AWX through extensive testing on our side before we certify a particular version as ready for release and bringing it into the cloud platform. So you know that any instance of Ansible AWX running on Nautobot Cloud has been thoroughly vetted and tested by Network to Code, and we're willing to certify that it is good to go and ready to run in a production environment. We also have the ability for custom deployments. So if there's some unique situation in your environment that maybe you're like, hey, I need to do something just a little bit different, we're absolutely here to support you with that. And then, of course, that layered on Nautobot functionality, the source of truth and the automation platform tied in with AWX gives you the end result of the same experience as you might have with the paid for version of Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform. So as we think about the value of cloud when we bundle it with our open source essentials package over on the Nautobot Cloud side. So in the on-premise solution, we can look across the series of tasks that we have to do in order to maintain Nautobot and then running our Ansible automation platform. And not only the time, but then the cost in real dollars or currency that's coming there, right? So, support provided by Red Hat. And here we have some approximate numbers for you, depending on the number of nodes, that is any device you're trying to automate or put into the platform, and the cost that's going to be associated with that at typical Red Hat prices. Compared to moving over to the Nautobot Cloud solution and our open source essentials package. First, the Nautobot pieces, right? You're saving all of that time because that's coming as part of the cloud infrastructure, right? You don't have to worry about those deployment and maintenance tasks otherwise. And then coming into the Ansible AWX piece, our prices come in anywhere from 60 to 75% less than Red Hat, and we have that parity when we're coupling it with Nautobot services. And one of the kind of again, value add pieces of the Nautobot Cloud instance is Open Source Essentials actually comes with even more support than just AWX. We can support things like Fatfish, Nornier, NetMiko, Napalm, and even telemetry solutions that you might have running, assuming they're running on open source packages in your environment. So we're here to help you, to partner with you, to help you drive automation forward faster, more efficiently, and at a better cost. All right, we've gone through the introductory slides that we have for you, and now let's pivot over to some of the fun stuff, actually get into the real live demo again here. So we're going to go back over to Taylor as he takes us through the demo side.
Thanks, Tim. That was a great presentation. Well done. What I will do is, to follow that, I will navigate back to our cloud instance and just walk through a few of the examples that Tim had mentioned earlier in this presentation, showing you a real world user experience of the console and our cloud portal. So first things first, what we have here in front of us is the console that you were just introduced to earlier a few slides ago, with all of our projects, resources, data insights and trends, and all of the information necessary in the console provided to you. And you can see this webinar demo resource that we just recently built up, and it's in the status of creation. So hopefully in the next couple of minutes, we should see that become healthy and able to access. But as I go into the console and I click through, let's just say the management pane for our resources, you can see how we expose the resources of varying different projects, showcasing the names of these, whether they're your sandbox, your production, your test, what images these are in currently, what level of access, URL, who created it, when it was created, and what its current status is. So all of the pertinent information a user would need when navigating through and managing multiple resources. As I dive into a resource, let's just say this dev demo resource here, what I'll kind of show you is, as you enter into a specific Nautobot resource, we've created it, and I want to start getting some use out of it right away. Well, I can see that I have, just out of the box, a very standard deployment. Across the top, I have my source of truth data models that are native to the platform. But I really found that my biggest use case is going to be configuration compliance. And so with that, I want to install an application on top of Nautobot and leverage that application for some configuration compliance. So what I want to do is I will go into this resource here, and then I can actually go in and see what apps I have installed in this resource. And I notice that I don't have a golden configuration application installed currently. If I navigate to the marketplace that Tim had mentioned that's provided in this console, I can immediately see a list or a picture of all of the available applications for me to use at the marketplace. And I see immediately that I have this golden configuration application accessible. So what I can do is, in the same manner as we had just simply created the resource with a single click, I'm going to navigate a very familiar workflow in installing an application. And so by just selecting the app that I want to install, choosing the instance or the resource that I want to install this on, any kind of special parameters that are pertinent to this application, I can complete an install in 1 or 2 clicks. And what I'll do now is I'll restart this instance and show that in a few minutes, we'll have access to this golden configuration application in this resource here. But while we wait for that to finish updating, I do want to, first circle back to the marketplace and just spend a little extra time there. Tim had mentioned earlier that Nautobot is used as an automation platform, and the data in its source of truth aspect can be leveraged through a variety of different apps for a variety of different use cases. Just to educate those that are on the webinar today, some of the applications that are most popular, Tim had mentioned, are golden configuration application for those who are trying to manage configuration drift across their enterprise. Other popular applications would be the device lifecycle management application. So this is an application that allows you to begin asset tracking and asset management in your Nautobot, being able to manage hardware notices, software licenses, and even track common vulnerabilities and exposures to the devices in your environment, as well as modeling firewall rules, BGP modeling, being able to expose all of the extra metadata in Nautobot through capacity metrics. So you can tie all of the Nautobot data either into the trends that we've shown you so far, or bring those into other business analytics and business intelligence tools that you may have in your current technology landscape, as well as a variety of other different applications for those that are new to Nautobot and need some kind of beginner level help in assisting and standing up and running with their platform. A welcome wizard's very nice. Easy applications to onboard your devices in your environment and quickly populate your source of truth and automation platform to begin exercising that automation we've been talking about, as well as a variety of other applications here in this marketplace today, and many, many more to come as we continue to create and open source these to you. Usually a common question that we hear is, are custom applications that users can build and develop, are they able to be used in the Nautobot SaaS solution? And the answer is yes. So the marketplace pertains to the currently NTC sponsored available applications, but most certainly custom applications are allowed with the SaaS offering as well. And then, maybe just putting a little bit of emphasis onto the Ansible AWX portion of the conversation and the console, showing you that just like how you saw us managing Nautobot resources, you have a very similar environment managing your Ansible AWX resources that allows you to log in to that resource, manage it as necessary. And then finally, putting an emphasis on the data insights and the trends that Tim had exposed to you earlier, showing that the breadth of data that we can provide to you as a consumer and as a user of the platform. So first, selecting the instance that I would potentially want to focus in on and I care about, seeing immediately, a standard, first dashboard depicting my Nautobot in general, of a model summary showing me the overall IP addresses, prefixes, devices, racks, sites, locations that I have in my source of truth. Being able to show me all of that in counters, as well as in pie charts and other different visualization tools. But then also providing you out of the box with other data insights that can kind of be more focused to your need and your intent. So if I really need to hone in on my device inventory and have a better, more granular overview of what that looks like, exposing that here to you with a simple switch of a dashboard template and showing you in this case, information that would be pertinent to me, which could be the number of devices per region or per manufacturer or device type, or maybe even a heat map showing me a global map of my environment, my enterprise, and where my assets lie and where I can manage them most effectively. All of this provided to you through this trend and data insight value add that the cloud, Nautobot Cloud, and the Cloud Console provide to you. And I think quickly circling back, I saw earlier the webinar demo instance that we had just simply created a few moments ago. You can see that now it is healthy and ready. So just in a matter of minutes, you have a resource spun up, just emphasizing Tim's point that the labor time and labor value here is just almost negligible in how fast we can deploy these resources. In that same manner, the instance that I had just built or added an application to, I see that the upgrade is complete and healthy. So in just a few minutes, that upgrade is now ready for me to to utilize. And so I can now enter back into this resource, and immediately you see that the application is installed and ready for my use. So I can start tackling network automation quickly, which is just so valuable. And maybe another example that I would like to just point out would be, once you have an instance and a resource stood up, what does automation look like in your enterprise at that point? And so accessing a resource where I've already populated an instance with some data and some configuration that I want to run compliance to, showing you what this automation looks like quickly and easily. So as I go to my Golden Configuration app, I'll navigate to a configuration compliance overview page. What this is showing me is, of the 3 devices in my environment, it gives me a nice, easy 10,000-foot view of my compliance. And you can see I'm just monitoring 3 different compliances, such as hostname, NTP, and SNMP. And what I want to do here is I want to showcase, with the Golden Configuration app and all of its beautiful features, how we can quickly automate remediation and deployment of that configuration here. And so simply by going into what we would call a configuration plan, which is us seeing the non-compliance issue on a device and saying, hey, we want to present this plan to fix or remediate that. Navigating into this specific plan where I want to push this specific set of configuration that should fix, in this case, my SNMP non-compliance on a specific device that I have. Simply clicking a button that is going to deploy and run this automation. And then from there, clicking into another job that can go and actually update my compliance and update my executions to show, hey, from that 10,000-foot view, I want to point out that, hey, everything here is now within compliance in my environment. And so I can just quickly choose what kind of devices I would prefer to run this on, or I can run on all of my environment. And just simply seeing what a job execution looks like from a manual standpoint, for those that are not familiar, executing a specific set of automation that we've built through Python. In this case, updating all of the configuration and the compliance to successfully bring us into understanding what our config drift looks like. All of this automation is provided to us quickly and easily now that we've just spent negligible time deploying and focus on maintaining these resources now that we have this SaaS solution. Finally, I think a final point to close out is maybe talking about the upgrades that are possible with, and the other functionalities that are possible with these resources. So being able to go into my demo resource where I just added that application for Golden Config. Let's say that that image is actually on an older Nautobot image and I want to update my images. I can simply select the image. I can hit save, and then similar process to what we've seen. In a matter of minutes, my resource will then be updated to the latest version of Nautobot, so I can start really utilizing the benefits of Nautobot as the platform matures and as new features become available and functionalities become available. And finally, just as a last point of note, the ability to utilize snapshots, recover instances, update, clone resources, and destroy resources are all functionalities that come standard with the platform and as a user and consumer of Nautobot Cloud. So with all of this, Tim, I believe there have been some questions people have been asking in the chat. So I would love to take a minute here and just be able to field those so we can hopefully answer any questions that the people have been asking during our presentation today. And
Yeah.
I see that the first question, Tim, that was asked is, can Nautobot kick off playbooks, Ansible playbooks, that exist on an on-prem instance of AWX?
Yeah, great question. So initially, when I was talking about the Ansible AWX available to you in Nautobot Cloud, we were kind of highlighting that idea that the two together in cloud are really advantageous. But here now we're thinking about, hey, we've got Nautobot running up in our Nautobot Cloud, but for whatever reason, maybe perhaps we've already got an on-premise version of AWX, or maybe we still have a Red Hat Ansible automation platform running in our on-prem version. And can I use my Nautobot Cloud Nautobot instance in conjunction with that? And the answer is absolutely yes. So whether you are running Ansible AWX in Nautobot Cloud or on-prem, or maybe you're running Ansible automation platform on-prem or in some other cloud, absolutely those can be interconnected with Nautobot, no problem.
That's great to know. And I see that another question is actually trickling in as we're answering. And the question is, what is the deployment time for Nautobot Cloud? And how quickly can we start using Nautobot Cloud?
Yeah, so here I think the root of this question is really about like, hey, how do I engage with Network to Code? How do I get involved? How do I sign up for Nautobot Cloud? So absolutely, we're here for you. Here on the sales team, we're happy to engage with you to get you into the environment as quickly as we can. The short answer is you can start virtually immediately. I mean, of course, we need to begin the process and set up the business side of Network to Code and you. But once we have that done, we can get you deployed very quickly. It's going to be a matter of days. It's not something that we're talking about weeks or months, right? So getting up, deployed, operational in Nautobot Cloud is very quick. So no problems there. Yeah, absolutely. We're here to help you and drive you forward as quickly as we can.
That's great to hear. And then I see a third question's coming in. What level of support and expertise is available to users of Nautobot Cloud?
Yeah, so we have kind of, you can think of it in tiers as far as the support available to you as part of Nautobot Cloud. First, the cloud infrastructure is coming with all of that backend monitoring, deployment, all of those upgrades of that infrastructure, all available just as part as the table stakes part of the cloud environment. But then, as we start thinking about like, hey, I need some help writing a playbook, for example, or maybe a Nautobot job. And could I get some assistance with that? And absolutely, there are packages that we can add on to your base Nautobot Cloud instance that will give you access to getting work done, right? So you can have someone from Network to Code write a playbook for you, or write a Nautobot job for you, or maybe help you with ingestion of data into your environment. But of course, just out of the box, we're here to help you with your traditional break fix support. Maybe you deployed the config compliance, the golden config app, and for some reason, the connectivity into your environment isn't allowing you to pull data off of a particular device. We're here to support you for that. We would get on a Zoom with you. We'd figure that problem out and get that resolved with you. So absolutely available both from just your traditional break fix all the way up to and including actually doing work for you and just helping you be more efficient.
And then, Tim, I see that as you were answering that question, one more came in. And the question is, I've seen some videos that integrate Microsoft Teams or Slack. So I imagine integrating Nautobot with Microsoft Teams or Slack. The question is, how would that work with the cloud offering?
Yeah, so that's the chatbots, right? So how do we take advantage of the chatbots when we're using Nautobot Cloud? So if you think of Nautobot Cloud being, as far as running your Nautobot, in Nautobot Cloud, there really isn't a lot of difference between running it on-prem versus running it in the cloud from a what's possible perspective. Now, that does mean we need to have that connectivity available to us. So most of the time, most of our clients at this point have some cloud strategy, and probably you have some cloud connectivity native to your world already. So if that's true, if you have some form of direct connect or other connectivity into a public cloud, we can create that connection from your public cloud environment into your Nautobot Cloud environment. And this will be private to you and you only. When we do spin these Nautobot Cloud instances up, they are dedicated for you. You're not in a multi-tenant environment. You're in no way risking sharing your data with anyone else. And so you would essentially have native access from via that cloud infrastructure into your environment. Now, perhaps you don't have that already set up, and in which case then we would be establishing some form of VPN tunnel from your Nautobot Cloud into your infrastructure. And that is how we would create that connectivity between whatever it is, whether you're using Slack or Microsoft Teams or you name the chat application, whatever that chat application is, in order for that chatbot functionality to work. And that is actually one of the beauties of the way that we have built our chatbots. That is that essentially all that's required is an outbound webhook call from the chat application into Nautobot. So that's really easy to do. And in fact, it's technically even possible over the public internet using SSL encryption. Now, that's not generally done and probably not commonly practiced, but it is technically possible, right? Just to highlight the idea that it is very flexible and very easy to integrate Nautobot with your chat application. So great questions coming in here from the group. Thank you for those. Just waiting 1 second to see if we get any others in as we're finishing up here the Q&A. And if any others do come in, please feel free to fire them away at us here. I think we can probably move on from the Q&A and go into our recap. So thanks everyone here that was joining us today. So glad you were able to visit with us. Just to kind of recap what we went over here today as we went through the slides, right? Nautobot Cloud, accelerating the delivery of outcomes, unlocking the potential of automation for you quickly and easily, streamlining deployment and management. Basically giving you the easy button and not having to worry about things that are not part of your core functionality. Let us handle that. You focus on what you do, drive the network forward. Thank you all again for watching today. We're always here for you. Again, myself, Tim Shryack, and Taylor Dawson here with me helping today on the presentation. You're always welcome to email us, contact us. You can give us a call at 844-NET-AUTO, which I always think is a pretty cool number. I'm glad we were able to get that. Email us, hit us up on the web, check us out. We'd love to see and hear from you.